Happy Friday, everybody. We finally made it past bedtime for another happy hour. It should be like way past bedtime, but to be honest, Petey's been moving around till like a minute ago. Cross your fingers. He finally stays asleep. For you and me both. Holy moly. My name is Bridget Young. I'm a doctor of perinatal nutrition, a certified lactation counselor, and founder of babyformulaexpert.com. And it is happy hour. It really is happy hour. It's Friday. And today we are going to be talking about Enfamil's newest formula, NeuroPro Sensitive. I am looking a little haggard and exhausted and totally going straight to bed after this. I have my rosé on ice. I'm drinking and eating someone's leftover puffs. It's like the mid-30-year-old woman's bar nuts. Like, this is Friday night now. Woo. Take what I can get. It actually tastes fabulous. So, back to business. Enfamil just released a brand new formula. It is out online, and I actually have no idea what stores it's in, but you can purchase it online through their website and also through, I want to say through Amazon, but to be really honest with you, I didn't double check that. But it's definitely on the market. Now, for the record, this is my little wrist slap to Enfamil. They released Gently Inspire without adding it to their medical practitioner website, which has a lot more details about the formulation. And now they have released Enfamil Sensitive without adding it to the medical practitioner website, which means there's very limited information available. So Enfamil, that's one. That's two. One more, and you will have to have a time away. Now, I'm hashtag kidding, not kidding. The reason I'm kidding is because Enfamil is not alone in this. Gerber, the most recent formulas they released, Similac, the most recent formulas they released, they just put them out on the market before there's a lot of information available about them. And tisk, you guys, that's not cool. Pediatricians should be able to access medically relevant information on your medical website if their patients are using their product. Okay, that being said, I'm off my soapbox. Let's actually talk about the formula. So I was able to call Enfamil and get some of my questions answered. So I was able to get some answers over the phone that you can't get anywhere else. So at least that was something. That's not always the case when some companies release new formulas. Sometimes the people who answer the phones aren't able to get you the information right away, which is very appalling. So that's not the case. Enfamil was able to provide information. So I've got the deets for you. So Enfamil Sensitive. Before now, Enfamil did not have a formula marketed with the word sensitive. Now, you guys have to remember, the word sensitive doesn't legally mean anything. It's not regulated. It doesn't have any specific nutrition or medical meaning attached. However, at the moment of this live, which is May of 2019, almost all sensitive formulas that are on the market are all very lactose reduced or basically lactose free. So the reason they are sensitive, or for babies who may be sensitive, again, whatever that means, is they've removed the lactose. So they are going to be soothing or therapeutic for a baby whose digestive issues and digestive discomfort are a result of not being able to digest 100% lactose comfortably. So Enfamil hasn't had a formula. They have lactose reduced formulas, but that fit this bill until now. The other thing that is common with sensitive formulas, and Enfamil NeuroPro Sensitive is no different, is that for some reason they are all casein dominant. So I've got a bunch of happy hours about this, and I have a lot of information on my website. So if the word casein and whey are totally foreign to you, please go over to babyformulaexpert.com and read a little bit about it. The very short summary is that milk proteins, cow's milk, breast milk, all mammalian milk come in two categories, whey and casein. The punchline is breast milk has mostly whey proteins, roughly 60%, and roughly 40% are casein. Cow's milk is kind of the other way around. Cow's milk is roughly 80% casein and 20% whey. So most formulas add back extra whey to tweak the ratio to be closer to the human breast milk ratio. 60% whey, 40% casein. For some reason, again, this is not regulated. This just seems to be some kind of internal hullabaloo between formula companies. For some reason, sensitive formulas are both lactose reduced and casein predominant. So For example, Similac Sensitive, which has been on the market forever, so both Similac Sensitive and Similac Pro Sensitive, just uses cow's milk protein without any additional whey. So the ratio of proteins in that formula is roughly 80% casein, 20% whey. And it's really similar with the other sensitive formulas on the market. So Earth's Best, Happy Baby, Honest Company, all of them are dramatically lactose reduced, just like Similac Sensitive, but they also are casein predominant. All three of those that I just named, those organic ones, Earth's Best, Happy Baby, and Honest Company, they add back a little bit of extra weight, but not a ton. So they're more like 70% casein, whereas Similac Sensitive is 80% casein. So both have way more casein than breast milk. I don't know why this is. Casein can be, it's just the mechanics of how it's digested make it move through the stomach more slowly. And in general, it's considered to be more quote unquote reactive, which that's a very loose term, I know. But in general, if I have when working with a baby who is having a lot of digestive issues, I usually move them off of a lot of casein. So I literally don't know why sensitive formulas have so much casein in them. I mean, I have an idea. It's much cheaper to do it that way because you don't need to add in an additional expensive ingredient. That's the only reason I can think of, but I literally don't know. And if there is, this is what I can tell you for sure. There's no research to suggest that a casein dominant protein would be therapeutic for a baby who is having gastrointestinal issues. So I will just leave it at that. So until now, Enfamil didn't have a formula that fit that category, a casein predominant, very lactose reduced formula. Now they do. They're jumping on the bandwagon. I mean, this is not like a new bandwagon. A lot of these sensitive formulas have been around forever. So it's not a new thing, but Enfamil is getting in the game. So this is what NeuroPro Sensitive is. So it does have three kind of unique characteristics relative to the other sensitive formulas that set it apart a little. And I want to talk to you about those because those are really what would drive your decision to either switch or not switch or consider it. So they are, one, they do add extra whey, or the way that they add is incorporated in the MFGM ingredient, which makes it the NeuroPro. So the ratio, the point is that the ratio of whey to casein in the NeuroPro Sensitive is 45% whey, 55% casein. So it's almost 50-50. It's definitely not more whey than casein, but it is the most whey of any quote unquote sensitive formula on the market. More than Similac Sensitive, more than Honest Company, Earth's Best, and Happy Baby Sensitive. So that's great. Anytime I see something that's different, it's great. When someone comes out with just a duplicate formula, that's not helpful for anyone because it's just confusing. So that's great. It's something that's different that would allow a family to make a decision of, okay, we think that might help our baby, so we'll choose that. So it has the most whey of any quote unquote sensitive competitor. Two, it has no sucrose. So for example, Similac Sensitive, which is, the big competitor, has less than 1% lactose, just like Enfamil Sensitive. So they basically have removed all the lactose. The amount of lactose that's remaining is quote unquote contaminant lactose. So if you have a baby with a genetic problem digesting lactose, which is very, very rare, you would know your baby has this, they can't have this formula because there's this tiny amount of trace lactose. So Enfamil, Similac, Earth's Best, Sensitive, they all fall into that category. So however, Similac Sensitive, you have to replace lactose with something. Babies need carbohydrate, so you have to replace it with something. Similac replaces it with a combination of corn syrup-based carbohydrate and sucrose, which is table sugar. I'm not a huge fan of using sucrose in formula for a variety of reasons. Now, if your baby is on Similac Sensitive or Pro Sensitive right now and your baby is doing great, mama, just cover your ears and turn this off. You're doing a wonderful job. Your baby is healthy and growing and you are killing it. Do not pay attention. If you are that is not you and you are deciding between the two, I do not like to see sucrose as a carbohydrate source. The reason is when it's metabolized, it's broken up into glucose and fructose. Fructose isn't really a carbohydrate or a metabolite of a carbohydrate that we see in breast milk. could go on and on about various different metabolism reasons, but that's the punchline. So Similac Sensitive uses sucrose. The organic ones do not. So if you're on Earth's Best Sensitive or Happy Baby Sensitive or Honest Company Sensitive, they do not use sucrose. Enfamil has also chosen not to use sucrose. So while there is almost no lactose, they use corn syrup-based sugar as their replacement carbohydrate. So if they were going to remove all of the lactose, which I usually think is a little unnecessary, I like to see a little bit lactose left. In general, different babies need different things. I do appreciate that they're not using sucrose as a replacement carbohydrate. The last thing, which I already alluded to, is obviously there's the NeuroPro factor. They had MFGM, which stands for milk fat globule membrane. So the ingredient you see on the label is something, oh, I have it in front of me, let me read it to you. It is whey protein lipid concentrate, which is the source of both milk fat globule membrane and the extra whey. So it comes from cow's milk. I have a happy hour all about it. Milk fat globule membrane is a combination of proteins that surround the balls, the molecular balls of fat that you find in cow's milk. And they are very well studied, very safe, and are very well studied to provide benefits to infants, including certain types of immune protections against certain types of infections, and also cognitive benefits. So babies in these research studies who have had them scored a little bit better on baby IQ tests at about 12 months of age. So, I mean, that's pretty dang cool. Now, I always like to point out, it's not, MFGM would not be the first thing I consider to make my decision. Also have to remember that when in these very well done research studies that show benefit, babies are provided a formula with this ingredient exclusively from birth or very close after birth for a good chunk of time, up to 6 months or beyond. So if you're just supplementing, using occasionally, have a baby who's way older than 1 or 2 months, the MFGM is not going to hurt for sure, but we don't know if it's going to provide the same amount of benefit as these other studies when babies get a much more consistent concentrated dose. So it's never as black and white as marketing makes it seem. So keep that in mind. So, but to summarize, the 3 things that make NeuroPro Sensitive kind of stand out or different from other quote unquote sensitive formulas on the market are: 1, to my knowledge, it has the highest percentage whey of any of the sensitive formulas. That's honestly a bigger deal to me than the MFGM for this reason. If you are considering a sensitive baby, a sensitive formula, you probably have a sensitive baby. Your baby's probably going through some kind of intestinal discomfort that makes you think they may need a sensitive formula. If that's the case, then getting the macronutrients, like the big ingredients, the fat, the protein, the carbohydrate, just right for your baby so they can digest comfortably is more important to me and probably to you than having these sexy ingredients. Because if your baby's not digesting well, they're not sleeping well, they may not be getting enough sleep, they might not be absorbing their nutrients as efficiently. And those are really big issues that if solving those problems are going to be much better for your whole family's quality of life than tiny amount of benefit that may or may not be provided by some of these sexy ingredients. That's kind of my soapbox. So the extra whey is actually a bigger deal to me than the fancy MFGM. One of the other things that sets us apart is the fancy MFGM, which these other sensitive formulas do not have, because at the moment, Enfamil is the only brand that's adding it to formulas. And then lastly, no sucrose, which is another word for table sugar. So that's particularly relevant when you're comparing Similac Sensitive to Enfamil NeuroPro Sensitive, because Similac's the only one that uses sucrose. If you're comparing it to, say, Earth's Best Sensitive or Honest Company Sensitive or Happy Baby Sensitive, none of them use sucrose. So with the carbohydrate concerned, that's similar between the organics and the Enfamil NeuroPro. So in general, I'm going to give you kind of a summary of the formula like I normally do, and I'll give you a couple scenarios. And then look at this, Mama needs to go to bed. So in summary, this is an intact protein formula. Despite the word sensitive, it is not a partially hydrolyzed formula. So if your baby needs a partially hydrolyzed formula, or definitely if they've been all the way onto a fully hydrolyzed formula, this is not a good choice. It is intact and it is mostly casein, although as we just discussed at length, it's more whey than other sensitive formulas. 45% whey, 55% casein. Over 99% of the carbohydrate is from corn syrup solids. So this is almost no lactose. It has residual amounts of lactose, but not a ton to contribute calorically. It's almost no lactose formula. The fat blend is the same fat blend that's in all Enfamil formulas. It's very standard. It has both palm oil and soy oil. This formula does have DHA and ARA. It has no prebiotics and no probiotics. I actually think this is a cool thing. Prebiotics and probiotics are very marketed, but again, if you are considering a sensitive formula, your baby has probably been going through a fair amount of intestinal distress for whatever reason. I usually like to get babies, this is a very personal opinion, that like to get babies feeling comfortable and digesting a little bit better before introducing a new prebiotic or probiotic, because it's very hard to like throw a lot at little intestines if they're already not having a good time. So how was that for medical talk? So I actually appreciate that it doesn't have a prebiotic or a probiotic, because if you're switching to this formula, it's one less thing that you're changing. And then if your baby thrives on this formula, it's super easy to add a probiotic to the formula, so that there's no prebiotic, no probiotic, but I actually think that's a plus for a formula that's marketed to sensitive babies. So here's some scenarios. Say you're on Enfamil NeuroPro since birth. Your baby's doing fine. They go to daycare for the first time. They get a GI, a gastrointestinal, but they get a tummy bug. They have a bunch of diarrhea. So common, right? Fever goes away, baby's feeling much better, but the diarrhea is continuing. A lot of times when little babies have diarrhea for a long amount of time, your pediatrician will want you to go onto a lactose-free formula for a little bit of time while their intestines recover and bounce back their ability to digest all that lactose. Oh my God, this is a great formula to talk to your pediatrician about using, because it's similar, mostly very similar, not exactly the same as the protein in NeuroPro Infant, but they've just scooped out all the lactose and put corn syrup in instead. So this might be a great formula to use for a week or 2 weeks, whatever your pediatrician recommends, while your baby's recovering from the diarrhea, and then you can switch back. Amazing, great use for this formula. Here's another scenario. Your baby's on Enfamil NeuroPro Infant at birth. Things are not going well. Baby's very uncomfortable. Stools are a mess. So your doctor says, okay, let's try the Gentle Ease. It helps with the stool a little bit. Baby may or may not be better, but all of a sudden starts to have skin issues accompanying. So digestion is a little bit better, but not perfect. And now they have a consistent rash. NeuroPro Sensitive is not, in my opinion, not a great formula to try next, because you would be moving from a partially hydrolyzed back to an intact protein, not only intact, but that has a lot of casein. So that would be a scenario that I don't think moving to sensitive would be a great choice. This is the kind of stuff that you need to be talking about with your pediatrician. I'm hoping those examples are helpful of 2 different cases where you can use your baby's symptoms to help you make a decision. My website is full of background information that will inform you how to kind of make those decisions and discussion points to have with your pediatrician. So I hope those scenarios were helpful. I'm so tired. I feel like I rambled a little bit. I hope that was clear. So in short, Enfamil Sensitive is joining the ranks of sensitive formulas. It is a little different than competitive sensitive formulas, but not hugely different. The biggest differences that are likely relevant to your baby, especially if you're already on a sensitive formula, you're not 100% happy with how your baby's doing, but not sure if it's big enough to switch, maybe this is something to consider. So, and the biggest differences are, it has no sucrose, which would be different only if you're on a Similac sensitive formula, and it has more whey, and it has that sexy MFGM ingredient. I hope this is helpful. I threw a lot at you, and I kind of did this happy hour with the expectation that you have a lot of background information, which I know is probably not the case. So if you have questions, put them in the comments and I will get to them. If you want me to do a follow-up happy hour about this, I am happy to. If you have used NeuroPro Sensitive, please put your experience in the comment. It's a brand new formula, so we would all love to hear how your baby responded to it. I would love to hear why you chose it for your baby, if your baby was having any particular symptoms, and whether or not it helps. That would be really helpful for me, and I'm sure for other parents. Thank you so much for watching. We all need to go to bed. Y'all, it is 10 o'clock. What am I doing awake? So have a wonderful week. I got a couple other fun things to talk about. There's a new European formula that's available in the US called the Luca, and I'm going to talk about that probably next week. And I've got some other fun stuff people have asked about that is coming. So have a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.